Call this meeting to order.
Roll call for the City Council meeting of Wednesday, August 17th at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Potowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon. Please rise for a moment of silent meditation and Pledge of Allegiance.
I would ask that we remember all those in our community that are less fortunate than we are in any and every way, both locally and globally. We also ask that we remember those who have lost loved ones since the last time that we were in these chambers. And finally, ask that we, as a council, as a body, get the right and the proper information to make the best decisions for the citizens of the city of Erie.
Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from the council meeting of Wednesday, August 3rd, and bills for payment on August 12th and 19th, 2016. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Potowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky.
Are there any requests for repository sales? Any requests for repository sales? Seeing none, we'll continue on with the meeting. Citizens to be heard. The first citizen that signed up ahead of time and calling into the clerk's office was Mr. Randy Barnes.
Good evening, Council President, Council members, administration, guests. My name is Randy Barnes, 109 Walton Point. My topic was the effect of code enforcement. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. In a short time period, just 9 months from now, we'll have a new Democrat will win the primary, and we'll have a new mayor, basically in May, just 9 months from now. You know, in leadership's all we need, and that's all we should expect from our next mayor. Erie Times News continues to remind us about every other week of the leadership that's needed to pull this city in a good direction. Boy, over the next 9 months, I hope to see a person that demonstrates that leadership. I'm not so sure we've seen much leadership from our current council, any members of that, but let me explain. On May 4th, there was a vote taken, and there was going to be $40,000 from the CDBG money spread among several community centers. Between May 4th, when that vote was taken, and June 8th, the CDBG application could have been finalized. In fact, there should have been two applications. There should have been an application that allocated that $40,000 to the minority centers, and there should have been an application that allocated that $40,000 to code enforcement. So on June 8th, when council took a vote, we could have sent either application in. Between May 4th, when that vote was taken, and June 8th, there was a campaign to disparage the three council members who voted to send 2% of that CDBG money. A lot of trumped up reasoning that these three council members shouldn't have voted, that they were somehow going to profit immensely from this $40,000. And again, we're talking about 2% of the CDBG money. Not 10, not 20, not 25, but 2 lousy percent. $40,000 out of over $2 million. When that second vote was taken on June 8th, just one member had to change their vote. Would have been a tie. You could have rewritten it and given that $40,000. Just one member. Who were the three members that could have changed their vote? Well, those members were councilpersons Winarski, Mursky, or Kotowski. If either one of those three could have changed their vote, voted with Mr. Brennan, would have been a tie, would have been defeated, they could have went ahead and revoted the $40,000, the 2%, the $40,000 of the community centers. But there's no leadership because the mayor the administration wanted a code enforcement officer. There was no leadership on council to stand up and say, you know what, 2%, we can give 2%. So then we find out in July 20th, that code enforcement does not have the tools to do their job. But yet, a month and a half before that, we need a code enforcement officer. Then 6 weeks later, we find out they don't have the tools to do their job. Code enforcement has been operating out of City Hall since, I don't know, 1851. Did we have code enforcement then? But since some time in the past, we've been operating without the effective tools for code enforcement to do their job. How did we get 6,000 properties in the city of Erie that almost can't be inhabited? Maybe because code enforcement didn't have the tools to do their job. That wasn't brought up in May. All was brought up in May is we need a hot body, another seat to be filled. We need another person on the retirement plan in City Hall. Because we can't give 2% to those minority centers. We need it for code enforcement. We have a busing issue now. And I hear council members on TV say, everything's fine. Can't be improved. It's perfect. If you have the mindset, if the seven of you, any seven of you have the mindset that things in this city can't be improved, you ought to resign tonight. Because there's always things that can be improved. I don't care if it's an EMTA or what authority it is you have some control over, things can be improved. And if you think they can't be improved, then you're in the wrong seat. Why hasn't someone on council shown some leadership? Offered maybe 4 appointments to the city and 3 to the county council. What are we so afraid of? Are we afraid that county council is going to take over the bus system and move the bus stops a block away? Oh, the bus stops are already moved a block away. Well, I wouldn't be too concerned about them moving the bus stops a block away. But yet we're going to file lawsuits. A month ago, the mayor said, no problem finding the money. And then yesterday he says, well, it's up to the MTA to find the money. It's not up to the city of Erie. Changes it roundabout in less than a month.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next citizen that signed up, I don't see him in the audience, is Mr. Joe Curlett. Mr. Joe Curlett is not here, so we will continue on with citizens to be heard.
Short. Greetings, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Shante Pulliam. I'm the founder and executive director of Nurturing Hearts, Inc., which is located at 32 West A Street here in Erie, Pennsylvania. The purpose of me being here today is to share with you about what Nurturing Hearts is, the services that we provide to the Erie community, and to enlighten you of what a great asset we are and how we fill the gap, the large gap in the community when it comes to at-risk teenage girls. So, Nurturing Hearts is a self-esteem and self-development nonprofit organization for at-risk girls. And our purpose and our mission is to provide supportive leadership and life skills that will furnish and prepare at-risk girls 10 through 18 for a bright and positive future. 90% of the girls that we provide services to in Erie and Erie County have been physically, mentally, emotionally, some of them sexually abused, growing up in single-parent homes and in foster care units. So what we provide at Nurturing Hearts are 6-month programs and 3-day workshops that are geared towards positive self-esteem, healthy lifestyle choices, etiquette, leadership skills, financial literacy, goal setting, fun recreational field trips, and educational attainment. We take a holistic approach, mind, body, and spirit, to tackle the issues that are going on in the city of Erie with at-risk girls. Statistically, again, Erie has the highest teen pregnancy and juvenile probation rate amongst teenage girls in the state of Pennsylvania. I don't have to have an office to understand that that is unacceptable in our city. We don't have organizations such as Gannondale that are gone. Ophelia is gone. Nurturing Hearts is the only organization that is tackling these issues. And we've been successfully tackling these issues for 10 years now. And so I'm here today to pre-solicit your support. We did apply for CDBG. We have for, I believe, 2 to 3 years, and we haven't received anything. Now, I won't just be soliciting to you, but it is a community effort, city, county, state, federal. But because this is a city problem, I would solicit that you please step up to the plate and help us to fill this gap together. This is a community effort. We need everyone's help. We need everyone's support. We cannot do this alone. Since our inception in 2006, we have served over 1,000 young girls, helping them increase their self-esteem, changing their behavior in a positive way, improving their school attendance. But most importantly, the girls develop a sense of purpose and self-worth and goals for their future. So I've brought with me some packets for each and every one of you that has statistical data, that has testimonies, that has support letters that we've gotten from leaders in the community, as well as people that we've partnered and partnered with, from Gannon University to the Erie School District, to County Executive, to State Representative Pat Harkins, to just so many different Pershew's House, who has requested our services, Achievement Center, who has requested our services. There is a need for what we do. We are important. And I really want all of you to understand that, not just me saying it, but statistically. It's been shown. There's data to prove that there's a need for what we do. And there's no other organization that is filling that gap. And we've been doing it successfully for 10 years. So I'm here today to pre-solicit your support as we continue to sustain our organization and as we continue to spread abroad. So thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. Ms. Pulliam, is your contact information in the packets as well?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Michael Waddell. I reside at 2650 and a half Myrtle Street. I'm here at the concern of what I've lately been seeing on television and what happened with the Erie Police with Maltese Bolton, and what I've seen on YouTube just recently, and that the cloud that's being over our city right now, and what the police has done. What I seen was a young man who was handcuffed on television. He was handcuffed, and all I seen was the police run up on him like gang style, start punching this young man for like 8 or 6 minutes on YouTube. And it's been on the news lately, and the police haven't, or anyone haven't yet, came up with the footage saying that this young man, the reason why they beat him like that is because he tried to take their gun. Okay, we haven't seen that footage yet. And last night I was watching the news. I watched the world news, but my wife watched the Erie news, and it happened to catch my ear again. And this gentleman who's a prosecutor, here is in the day's paper, was on the news last night at 6 o'clock. He was arrested, I believe, for snatching the police gun. It's right here in black and white. He haven't received a blow to his head, but they was worried about their life, they said, with this young man who they beat for 6 or 8 minutes. I don't believe they even had probable cause. They said they stumbled on him smoking weed, sitting in his private vehicle, his property. I know it's maybe unlegal, but marijuana is legal in some states. It's going to be sometime legal in Pennsylvania. But this young man who's a prosecutor was on the news today, and 6 o'clock news last night. He grabbed a police gun. He wasn't assaulted. Is it police policy when a person grabbed a gun, you assault them, gang style, beat them up like that? Well, they didn't do this to this young man. So I think this really need to be looked at. The captain, someone should answer to this. We should see the footage where they say that this young man tried to snatch his gun, and if he did, why? He deserved that. That's no justice. That's not justice. Police, that's not police policy. That's not police policy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
My name is McDonald. My property is 19th and Reed. I want y'all to listen to me, and I want you to listen well. Some of you can't see the end of your nose. But you know, God give me the vision to look a little farther. And believe me, I'm older than anybody up there, which is a blessing right there. I was blessed to get as old as I am. But don't get me wrong. My age don't mean nothing. When you misuse me, Armageddon is coming up on me and y'all too. Now let me go back to what the young man just was speaking about. They tell me that happened about, I don't know, got to be a month now before they brought it to the forefront. Why didn't they bring it to the forefront when it first happened? They wanted time to sweep it under the rug. That's what I see. That's wrong. I've asked you time and time again, how do you train your policemen? From what I see, the police are supposed to arrest you and take you to jail if you unruly. They're not supposed to beat the hell out of you. Beat you up bad and then talk about you tried to take their gun. How can you take anybody's gun and your hands are locked behind you? First thing they do, they put you down on the ground. They want to put you on the ground. I don't think they should have to put you on the ground. You could stand up and get your hands cuffed. Why you got to get on the ground? He ain't going to get on the ground. You ain't going to get on the ground. They beat that poor boy, and his hands was cuffed behind him. That was wrong. I don't care what nobody say. That was wrong. Had that been one of your kids, you'd raise all kind of hell. Believe me, you would. I know you would. Y'all better look into this. Y'all too quick to want to satisfy Joe. Joe is just human. He ain't even a good man because he's scared to go out into the Blight neighborhood. If you're going to be the mayor, you're supposed to be the mayor for everybody. Everybody ain't going to like you, but you still, if you're chosen to be the mayor, you can't just blatantly Joe show his prejudice. He show his racism. He don't go out and see what's going on. The chief and I had a talk a while back. We was pretty close. I thought we were anyway. I told the chief I think he should be voted in. You shouldn't have to be hooked up with the mayor because you got to do what the mayor said do. The chief should be independent, but he can't be. I'm understanding that. I know he got to do what Joe said do. Whether it's wrong, no matter how wrong it is, you all is as guilty as Joe is because everything Joe wanted, you gave it to him. There was an ex-councilman came down here and tried to explain that to y'all, and you still don't get it. Some of you want to be the next mayor up there. If you're going to pursue the policies that Joe is on, you want to get on the same page that Joe is on, you ain't got no business being no mayor. Because we're tired of Joe's way of running things. I don't see nothing Joe have did for the taxpayers. Nothing. And I don't think you have either because you are in his corner. You better come out of that corner. You better do something about that boy getting beat like he is. You know, I was in a meeting. This was in the daytime. This was back down the road a little bit. And I went in the bathroom. When I was going to the bathroom, before I went in there was all kind of policemen out front. So I'm a diabetic. I got to go. I went in there, straight ahead. The wall was red, like somebody had them painted. There was about 6 or 7 cops in there. They beat the hell out of that poor boy.
Thank you.
They supposed to beat nobody, arrest them and take them to jail.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. But remember what I'm telling you. I get mad all over again when I do anything.
Next citizen to be heard.
Richard Wagner, 42nd and State. That's a tough act to follow, but what we need to get involved somehow as a community, and it'll help everybody. It's wonderful to see that the Rothrock building and the triangular-shaped building on Turnpike Road are being brought back to once again provide office space to businesses in the city. We need more of that. On the other hand, I couldn't help but read that LECOM once again is trying to pull property off the tax rolls, and we also reached an agreement with UPMC and entered into another pilot program with them. We have to realize at some point when the Auditor General of Pennsylvania clearly states that in Erie County, $75 million in taxes goes uncollected every year, it has to stop. Status quo. The existing state of affairs, especially regarding social and political issues. A gaping disconnect between City Hall and Erie residents and business owners, and the resulting lack of credibility among elected officials, is a theme running through Mr. Bucky's findings. The community made it clear to Mr. Bucky's team that their elected officials aren't giving it to them straight. And consequently, many elected officials don't have their trust. Holding only one session on the city's comprehensive plan would only reinforce the widely held view that civic manners are ineptly managed in Erie. City Council President Bob Mursky said he agreed with Bucky's suggestion for further public forums and was working to set them up. We'll see whether they follow Bucky's counsel to take the conversation to the community. As of yet, I see no interest by this group to embrace the concerns of the citizens. Mr. Mursky also stated allowing feedback from the community is important for us as we make decisions moving forward. Constantly desiring, seeking, and valuing the feedback is even more important. A comprehensive plan won't be worth the paper it is written on if your egos aren't left at the door and you start to do what is best for the city. 2 weeks ago, I came down to council to express my concerns about the tax grab being perpetrated by the city taxpayer, on the city taxpayers by the school district. I was really trying to bring this $38 million debacle to the forefront. It has to be discussed, and frankly, I think it has to be deemed illegal. You cannot tax me twice in the same calendar year. I received a bill that was due April 30th of 2016 at face value. Much to my surprise, I received another bill that is due November 30th of 2016 at face value. Folks, that's 2 tax payments for 1 year's service. When I brought that up and had concluded my statement, Mr. Mursky kindly suggested that I should go before the school board to discuss my concerns. He thought perhaps that I don't understand the process, but I do. The reason I brought this up at City Council is, and I quote, "Productive meeting this afternoon with Superintendent Jay Badams and Vice President of Erie School Board Ed Brzezinski about common issues such as tax-exempt properties, KOZ zones, and ways to collaborate between the city and the school district. Why would I want to go to the school district meeting when the liaison to the Erie School District, who happens to be its teacher, a union rep, and president of City Council, is available to me to discuss the collaboration between the city and its school district? You cannot expect the tax-paying homeowners of this city to absorb this double taxation. Perhaps if I thought it might have a chance of changing anything, I might almost buy into it. But the reality of the situation is our school district cannot exist in its present form. Home ownership in this city has become impractical, unaffordable, and frankly, in 2 years, the state will probably take this district over. Because of that, don't try to extract $38 million from the overburdened homeowners in Erie. It's too late, and it is beyond the point of return. to a solid organization. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Alvin Tucker from 2813 Reed Street. First of all, I'd like to co-sign Shantae and Nurturing Hearts because they do have a phenomenal organization. Now, I do think that certain people did drop the ball in the community center for sure. But with Nurturing Hearts, if they don't get funding, I don't know who's going to get funding out here, you know. But she is doing something phenomenal there. There's statistics behind it and whatnot. So first and foremost, I want to be right behind her and co-sign on that. Now, in regards to Montrese Bolden, there are approximately like 5 cops or something like that out here with reputations for, you know, brutalizing people. And as far as I'm concerned, they're still on the street. They're still roaming the street, you know, and I think that's ridiculous because at the end of the day, it's not like I'm doing research on my phone, you know, Google, trying to see what's going on with them. It's not like it's a local investigation. This is a federal investigation, you know, at one of the highest levels, if not the highest level, you know. So I'm thinking about it like, how could they could be on the other side of this wall for all I know, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, we've seen the video, we know that it's going on. Certainly Erie, you know, it's statistics that show you that it's one of the most racist cities in the whole entire country. It's one of the least diverse cities in the whole entire country. So, you know, you don't really have that going. We don't have that going for us, you know, because I live here too. But at the end of the day, there's something that has to be done. Tyrone has now come up. You see they beat him, left him out there to die. He walks with a cane right there. I'm thinking right now, like, he's still a fairly young guy. This happened last year. This man, he can't run from here to here smoothly. You know, at the end of the day, and that affects his whole life. That affects his family, the way that they see him. That affects the community. You know, at the end of the day, so I'm out here on behalf of the community to say that, number one. I'm not going to take up too much time because I got things to do. Now, at the end of the day, you know, we also want to say that we're putting in a lot of plans, a lot of, you know, organizations in play so that we don't have this problem, so that we have a mayor. I bet you this much within the next, you know, 1 or 2 terms, there won't be a mayor where they can say that he doesn't care about black people. There won't be a mayor where it's like, okay, he's not showing up to events, because behind our power and our financial backing, we're going to start putting people in place. I'm just coming here to let y'all know that. It's just a fact, you know, and anybody that could choose to laugh or say it's not true, don't forget, we the ones that block 12th Street, you know, we're about that life, you know what I mean? And that's not anything, you know, violent. It's non-violent, it's unified, it's strategic, it's organized, and I'm not to say that anybody else that's running today isn't going to be for black people. But here we are in one of the most racist cities in America, in one of the most least diverse cities in the whole entire country, and it's not really talked about. People from the millennial generation, they don't want to live in an atmosphere like that. Why do you think they're running? I think I got one friend. I've been in Erie for almost 6 years. I got one friend from when I got here. All my friends going to cultural melting pots. They going to New York. They going to Florida. They going to Cali. Shoot, some of them running to Minnesota. They going to Michigan. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, they don't want to be in an atmosphere where it's no cultural, you know, balance, like a place like Erie. You know, that's just me being honest. I think Erie is a great place, but at the end of the day, you got to look beyond the lake. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, we just got a hip-hop station out here. And it's from the 90s. It's not even current hip-hop. You know what I mean? There's no festivals, no cultural hip-hop events. There's nothing out here for black people to celebrate their culture and their tradition. There's nothing that tells black people, hey, we love you. You should love yourselves out here. Not a thing. If anybody can name one, then you got me. You know what I mean? Then I'm stopping right now. But I highly doubt that anybody can name one because, again, I'm in the trenches and I know these things, right? So I think that what's going to help Erie in general and make it safer for people to grow up and even your kids to grow up at the end of the day is if we focus on diversity. Not to say that you all aren't, because I know a lot of y'all already and I see y'all out here. But at the end of the day, and I respect that first and foremost. But my thing is, hey, listen, these 5 cops, like, come on. I'm hearing about their reputation, and I'm not looking to hear about their reputation. I'm going about my day, doing what I got to do to help people, and it's damn near smacking me in the face, you know. So at the end of the day, you know, something needs to be done about that. First and foremost, and the way I'm looking at it is, we keep getting a lot of the credit that you guys could be getting. That not even should be getting. You should be getting that credit. They shouldn't be looking at us like, you know, the people are doing this, they doing that, they getting this accomplished, now they doing that. That should be coming from y'all side, you know what I mean? And we got to hold y'all accountable like I'm holding these dudes in the street accountable, like I'm holding the police accountable. So I came to say that, to bring it to your attention, just like these other gentlemen did. There is no reason why these guys are under federal investigation and they are still on the streets. I wouldn't be satisfied if they had desk jobs.
Thank you for your time. Next citizen to be heard.
Good evening, Council. My name is Crystal Lepek. I am the Youth Service Coordinator for Youth Leadership Institute of Erie. We came tonight to briefly tell you about our new event coming up for 9/11 at the Veterans Stadium. I brought with me Anthony Vangelli, one of our members of our SALT team, and he's going to speak to you a little bit tonight.
Good evening, council members. My name is Anthony Vangelli, and I'm a senior at Iroquois High School. I'm also the special events chair for the Student Ambassador Leadership Team for Youth Leadership of Erie. As the Special Events Committee Chair, I collaborate with my fellow peers on projects and help organize special events for YLIE. I have learned valuable leadership skills from the program and joined because I wanted to help people and improve myself as a person. I'm here to inform you of all of the upcoming 9/11 events, a celebration of remembrance on 9/11 at the Veterans Stadium. Here we hope to bring East and West together through our event. The Youth Service America's The We Stand Strong program, the youth of YLIE will collaborate with emergency care and other health and human services to bring the public a disaster preparedness and safety awareness fair. This will be a day to come together as a committee, so we ask for you, the representatives of our city, to come out on 9/11 and show your support to the youth and communities of Erie. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have emailed all of you about this and sent you the flyer as well.
Thank
Okay?
you.
Thank you.
I like your jackets.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other citizens to be heard? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Barry Clark. I live at 2035 East 19th Street. Recently retired from Mill Creek Schools, and I'd like to speak on the funding or defunding of the community centers. I've been reading the newspapers, I've been watching the TV, and I'm disappointed that we have 4 centers that are not being funded. I'm not a mathematician, but the money that was allocated to those centers, they want to take that and give it to one person, one job. Those 4 centers, I grew up in Erie, and I participated in all of those centers, and they help our youth. I mean, from young age all the way up to 18 years old. And I'm talking about all the centers. I'm talking about every corner of Erie. But you want to take money away from those centers and put it in the pocket of one person? To me, that doesn't make any sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens to be heard? Any other citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we will continue on with the meeting.
Ordinances for final passage. Council File 15964, official ordinance number 26 of 2016. An ordinance appropriating the sum of $303,918.17 from unappropriated revenue received as program income from the Neighborhood Stabilization Program to be utilized on an additional NSP project. This ordinance is a revision to Council File number 15960, official ordinance number 22, 2016. The revision reflects a change in the amounts appropriated per line item. The total amount appropriated remains unchanged. By Mr. Mursky and seconded by Mr. Winarski, that Council File Ordinance Bill number 15964, now known as Official File Ordinance number 26, 2016, be finally passed by the City Council. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky.
Thank you.
That'll take us to new business.
Anybody with that motion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Jones.
I'd like to move the balance of the agenda.
So moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it,
Mr. President. Mr. Mursky, any separations?
Yes, I'd like to separate number 3 under new business.
Oh, I did. I meant Mr. Winarski. I said my own name, I'm sorry. And Mr. Kwitowski. Getting ready for school. And Mr. Kwitowski wants to separate number
3 under
new business.
Any others?
Any other separations? Seeing none, we'll move the balance of the agenda.
Moving the balance of the agenda, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwitowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky. City Council Resolution Number 3 by Mr. Witherspoon and seconded by Mr. Brennan. Resolved by the Council of the City of Erie that the proper city officials are hereby authorized and directed to enter into a contract extension with the Building Inspection Underwriters of Pennsylvania at 4538 Peach Street at the current rates for inspection services for the City of Erie's rental program. Discussion.
Mr. Kwitowski?
Yes, I just wanted to separate this for so I can vote no against it. I'm not really a fan of BIU. I don't think they've lived up to what we expected out of them, and I have my concerns with how they've been conducting business.
And just to piggyback off of what Mr. Kwitowski said, I have gotten complaints. Mr. Jones and Mr. Jones just asked me how long is the extension. When I asked Mrs. Roby for that paperwork, she said it was not brought down. So if anybody, I wanted to know how long it was too. I don't know if the administration knows how long that extension is. I have received complaints as well about building inspection underwriters that the rules change depending on the property, and that's a concern. That everyone should be treated equally, and also the timeliness of things. They say they're going to be here at a certain time. You take the day off as a landlord, and then they don't show up, and then you have to take another day off. I've heard complaints about that as well. So,
Mr. President?
Mr. Jones.
I've heard several of those. We all have heard those complaints. Yeah. Often, complaints come from someone who's unsatisfied for some reason, and sometimes it's both-sided or issues on either side. But with that said, there are some questions that I don't have the answer to, and that we as a body don't have the answer to. For example, the length of time, just kind of a write-up on what the numbers are, what the amounts are, some of those things that, we could have maybe gotten ahead of time. That maybe I would like to table it. I would make a motion to table.
I'll second that motion.
Motion to table by Mr. Jones, seconded by Mr. Kwitowski.
Yeah, maybe we can bring them and have a little.
What we'll do is, if council's okay with it, if it pleases council, we'll have either a representative BIU or from our engineering office come down, our code enforcement office. And also, I'd love to, Ms. Roby, if we could get that paperwork.
Okay.
On the length of the contract, just so we know how long we're voting on an extension.
Okay.
So motion to table?
Voting on the motion to table by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Kwitowski. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwitowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky.
Okay. Mr. Brennan?
Yeah, sorry about that late. I guess the question was that was there other people they talked to, or was it just, I wasn't sure if they got separate.
What I understand, the initial contract had an order, it had an option to extend.
Okay.
And that was what I understood. So we'll get that information, though, when they come down for the next meeting. So, all right, with that, we'll take it I'm sorry. Got to take us to committee reports.
Wait. You can't do my job.
I know, right?
Okay. We have 2 waive rules.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping
So you really can't do her job.
That's right. I can't do her job.
Take control, Mr. President.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm ready to go home.
Take control, Mr. President.
Okay, let's get to those waive rules. Okay. For resolution number 13, voting to waive the rules, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwitowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky. By Mr. Jones and seconded by Mr. Kwitowski, that Mr. William R. Powell of 4207 Page Street, Erie, PA, is hereby appointed to the Human Relations Advisory Commission. Mr. Powell will fill the seat vacated by Mr. Lynn Johnson, and his term will expire June 30th, 2018. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky. Waive rules for resolution number 14. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky. By Mr. Mursky and seconded by Mr. Kwiatkowski, that the following amounts be transferred in the Office of City Treasurer: $6,000 from salaries to $6,000 to overtime. Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Kwiatkowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon, Mr. Mursky. That'll take us to committee reports, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Roby. Mrs. Arrington, we'll start with you today.
Thank you, President. You know, it's frustrating, very frustrating to me when our citizens come out, and don't get me wrong, I love to hear the citizens' concerns and their remarks, but it's frustrating when they go up to the mic and they say, we don't care about what's going on in the community, because we do. They don't know that we're working behind the scenes on some of the issues that they were talking about. I've been on the front line of this violence since I lost my son almost 7 years ago. And the same issues that they spoke on, the video with the police, I seen the news, the gentleman on the news last night about how he tried to pull the police gun. I have the same concerns that they have. And I just wish that everybody would sit down long enough to hear what we have to say instead of thinking that we don't care, because we do care. We are part of this community. Whatever affects the community, it affects each and every one of our family and our children. And we have to unify ourselves and come together as a community in order to stop what's going on out there. We are elected officials, but we can only do so much. And believe it, whatever we can do, we will do. A lot of times, our hands are tied. You know, we met with the police chief. We asked the same questions that everybody else is asking, and we get the same response everybody else get. There's an investigation going on. We can't give out any details. So that's why we can't tell anybody anything, because we don't know ourselves. This is frustrating to us as well. We need a lot of diversity out here in our community, in our jobs. Everything. We got a lot going on in Erie, Pennsylvania for it to be as small as it is. But in order to get our community back to where it should be, we have to unite. You know, united we stand, divided we fall. And right now, we're divided, and we don't need to be divided. We need to come together as a community. Everybody quit complaining about what we can't do and get together and find out what we can do as a community. One good thing that I can say that I have done this month is when I went to National Night Out. I had a chance to go to 5 different neighborhood watch National Night Out. And just to see the community coming together, everybody laughing, having fun, eating, getting to know their neighbors, that was special. That was special right there. And if we continue to do things like that, then we won't have all this violence going on in our community. But I'm the first one to say our inner city need a lot of help. I was born and raised in the inner city, raised my children in the inner city, now helping to raise my grandchildren in the inner city. Every day that I get up, I'm scared, not just for my family, but everybody else's family, because we don't know what's going to happen. But we have to stick together. With that said, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Arrington. Mr. Jones.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take a moment very quickly to thank Mr. William Powell. for being willing to serve on the Human Relations Commission. Oftentimes, the unsung heroes are serving on a lot of these boards and authorities. We don't really hear about them until there's some seeming or some reality of conflict or some kind of controversial issue. But there are a lot of there's a lot of services that are being offered, and individuals giving their time, offering their expertise to making our community a better place, that aren't elected officials who aren't getting paid. They're just simply offering. And so wanted to take that moment and thank him as a young man who, he's really young because he's younger than me and I'm young. So he's got a lot to offer, and he will be an asset to that commission. Also, kind of to echo a little bit of what Mrs. Arrington was saying, it's important that we realize, that the citizens realize, I think, maybe, that we don't leave after these meetings. We don't fly in from somewhere else to facilitate and conduct city council meetings and business and then fly out afterwards to LA or some posh place somewhere, other than here. This is the decisions we make, and the things we do and don't do directly affect us. Respectfully, other staff members who work in this building don't have to necessarily live in the city, but we as elected officials have to live in the city. So we are directly related and connected to the decisions we make. I have 4 children, all of them from 20 to 10 live in the city. Young black men and a young black woman lives in the city. So I have 13 brothers and sisters, all of which, except for one, live in the city. I have 42 nieces and nephews. All of them but 5 live in the city. And so I think sometimes we get the opportunity, people get mic happy and camera happy and just kind of say whatever they feel like they can come to their mind. And that's okay. This is the country we live in, freedom of speech. But you need to I think it's important to sound intelligent and to sound and to want to have merit in what you say. I think you should really begin to stop trying to make others look bad to make yourself look good. I think there's so much going on that's going well in this community. If we begin to highlight that, then we will be able to see that there's much more good going on than bad, because whatever we feed is what grows, and that's why things are getting worse, because we're continuing to feed the negativity. Many times we, as elected officials, do things quote unquote behind the scenes, because that's the way business gets done. That's the way things get done. We can't run around shouting and yelling all the time because then no one's going to listen to us. You don't want to listen to me yell as a citizen. I need to handle business in a decorum, in a type of or handle myself with decorum and professionalism. We all need to do that. If we did not do that or operate that way, we would be criticized for that as well. And so I think everyone has a role to play as elected officials, as civic leaders, but also as citizens. There are many more citizens of the city of Erie than elected officials in the city of Erie. And I think that's something that is important for us to kind of keep in the forefront of our mind. Our assignment and our job as elected is to create an environment for the citizenry and the citizens to be their best and to do what needs to be done for their community. Because if I came into X community or X neighborhood that I don't live in and started saying this is how you need to fix things, they'd kick me out of there too. So it's almost like we're in a catch-22 situation. If we try to do too much, get out of here. If you're not doing quote-unquote what they think is or someone thinks is enough, then you're not doing anything. But I think together we can do much more. And I think we need to start to highlight what's going well, and that will grow. Because whatever we put our energy to, whatever we feed is what grows in our community. So there's several, looking forward to this weekend, and I won't take the thunder of the administration, as someone always says, right? We always take her thunder. But looking forward to celebrating Erie. And the only reason I said that is because that's the point I wanted to make in all the words that I've shared in this last 4.5 minutes, is that we need to begin to celebrate Erie instead of criticizing Erie. And this weekend is an opportunity to do that, but it shouldn't just be the third weekend of August every summer. It should be every day. Because again, this is where we live, and it will be what we make it. So let's do that. Let's work together. Let's make Erie what Erie has always been, is a great place. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening once again, everyone. Well, main topic has always been on my agenda, unfortunately, as well as City Council, as well as our community, has been the EMTA. And unfortunately, after many meetings and discussions and year and a half of dialogue, the EMTA finally decided they have to take things a little bit in their own hands, along with the city's help, to take this to court and file a suit for the good of the EMTA and all bodies involved. Was it the choice we wanted at the end of the day? Probably not, but it was something that had to be done due to the time constraints that we're within a month of the charter expiring. There's been a lot of risks and a lot of delays. I mean, the project just over on 14th on the city's east side, 14th, that was delayed since May of starting. So unfortunately, that action had to be taken. They'll move forward from there. We did meet this evening with Mr. Tan, the executive director. One thing I can honestly say there, as well as our councilmen and women have to agree, that whenever we've asked Mr. Tan to come and meet with us, just to give us, whether it be a State of the Union or just an update on whether it be the expansion or whether it be the charter or just anything on the whole, the guy has been here for us to answer any question and been very informative, very transparent, and in great detail. That's one thing I guess I'm fortunate enough to be a liaison to, is a authority that is definitely has worked with our council here. One thing he did say, right now the EMTA is not in any debt. They do not owe anybody anything, which was good to hear tonight. They are going to get their final bids in for Phase 2. They're supposed to receive them this Friday. They did have a few more companies bid on it than the first time. So if everything goes well, in early October, the Phase 2 project will be underway. Anything I wanted to mention as our summer draws to an end here, just want to give thanks to the sponsors and contributors to Erie's Summer Youth Program, Recreation Program. Gave a lot of our youth places to go to work, as well as to go to play, as well as to go and learn, and kept them out of trouble and got them a sandwich in the afternoon or breakfast in the morning. But once again, can't deem it other way than a success. And even got our seniors out for a night out on Monday nights to listen to some music. So for everybody who took advantage of this, once again this year, great job. I can't wait till next summer, because I'm not looking forward to winter. But one thing to follow up with my fellow councilmen here that speak before us, I just want to thank our councilmen here on board. Everybody has either a full-time job or a 40-hour-a-week job that is above and beyond what we do at council. And just saying, other than our meetings, we had a finance meeting, we had a study session on blight, as well as any liaison meetings that are going on during the month, not counting the phone calls, not counting the one-on-ones while you're in a grocery store or wherever you may be. We do try. We want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, and I believe everybody up here is here for that reason. We're definitely not getting rich up here, okay? So with that being said, thank you, my fellow council people, and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Winarski. Councilman Kwiatkowski.
Oh, yes, I have a lengthy, not real lengthy, but we attended the Aggregate Pension Board meeting very good discussion. We continue to look at all of our managers in a prudent and fiduciary manner. The fund had a rough quarter, but it's progressing well, and we expect a good turnaround next quarter. The police pension, I met with them, and they're a pretty proactive bunch of members. They are constantly trying to protect the balance of the assets there in that fund, and that's making progress also. Tended Water Reserve Fund along with Councilman Witherspoon, and part of the good news that comes out of there is that the fund is doing so well over the years since Council took it back and formed a committee that it's our pleasure this year to give $412,000 back. Now, hopefully next year, as the fund increases, we'll be able to give more back. That's our hope. I think, this was a fund that was in danger of being misused, and to Council's credit, they took it back and took serious thoughts in forming a committee to run it, and I applaud all those members, including my fellow councilman, Mr. Witherspoon. I attended the Parking Authority meeting, and their repairs are winding up pretty good on some of the ramps. They will be having that report done that Council expected. That should be coming down the pike shortly, and I'll fill you in when that's ready. We attended the Blighted Property Review meeting, and of course you had a chance to speak to them at the study session. I'm very impressed with a couple of board members on there. They're very outspoken, and that's what we need now. We don't need any more yes men on these boards. We need people that are willing to take up the challenge of a very difficult situation. Like we found out the other day, what we think is blight is not a blight according to the government, so we're going to have to be very proactive in how we look at this problem. To the administration, I want to have a talk with you after the meeting, Joe. We have some issues with the janitorial services here. I'm not real pleased, especially when we have a council meeting today and we have visitors out in from the public. So I'll get back to you on what my thoughts are there. And concerning Mrs. Arrington and Mr. Winarski's remarks and Mr. Jones, I want to applaud Mrs. Arrington because a lot of people, if you read about it, you think we did nothing. But Mrs. Arrington was very proactive. The first day we set up a meeting with the chief, and I would say she didn't throw any softballs at him. But as she said, there's many things we can and cannot do. It's now in the process of being, studied in the courts. It's out of our hands. But rest assured that when it comes back into our hands, if it does, then we will be able to take the appropriate action. But right now you have many agencies involved, and we're not one of them. But all these council members put in many hours. We call each other constantly about when they get problems concerning my committees. I call them. So I don't want the public to think that they don't do anything, because they most certainly do. If you were to look at my phone log, you wouldn't want it. You get a call at 6:30 in the morning, a guy complained that he got his car ticketed because I'm the liaison to the parking authority and the police. What do you do at 6:30 in the morning? I mean, I'm just getting up. I don't know about you, but that just goes to show you that, as Jimmy said and Curtis says, we can't even go to the grocery store and come home on time. My wife never makes the mistake of asking me to bring home milk or eggs. Not anymore. Or ice cream. But with that, thank you, and I'll turn it over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Kwiatkowski. Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to talk about it was mentioned earlier about the Blight study session we had. We had a good group of people there to talk. The Blighted Property Review Committee was really initiated the meeting. The Erie Redevelopment Authority was there, Court Enforcement, Zoning, and representatives from Economic Development. But it was good to get explained to us the Blight declaration process. I think there was a lot of good questions there, a lot of good data given on the real numbers on blight in our city, and what a lot of the things that are going on right now, initiatives that code enforcement is undertaking. So I think it was a very productive meeting, and we agreed that some of one of the problems is funding. Of course, we have a lot of work to do, and funding is always an issue with anything, but it's a special issue with trying to mitigate blight in our city, because we know the need is out there. We did agree to meet again in 3 months to again, work on some different issues and come back together and see what else, see what we can do to keep moving forward together as a group. But it was a good group of people together to bring all the minds in one location. I did want to also talk about the at our last meeting, the council approved a resolution for urban farming in the city, and at the time I noted that the benefits of that would be to put a lot of the vacant land to use that we have in the city, and that could of course provide jobs and training, support businesses, support again blight mitigation. But the City Planning Commission did review and recommended 3.0 to have our zoning office research and make recommendations further. So there'll be some research occurring and some hopefully some discussions with some local farming experts to really get some good input. And I'm hoping that it won't take a long time. I know a lot of people I've already heard said, well, why do we need to do a study? And really we need to get the proper amendments in place and to have the people who really know what they're doing to make recommendations to council, and then we would have a public hearing and then have it presented to us for input. So that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, the Erie Housing Authority hosted the annual Ellen Carey Golf outing. Of course, Mr. John Haran, who passed, spearheaded that. They had a full house, and the money they raised, all of it goes to scholarships to public housing kids. Also, they gave 2 college scholarships to 2 young ladies who was born and raised in the public housing. And those are the things that John Haran started, and it will continue. There'll be some changes soon. Dan Rossner is executive director. He'll be retiring pretty soon, so the committee will be moving towards looking for a permanent executive director. Just want to touch a little bit on some of the folks who spoke today. And Mrs. Arrington and Councilman Jones kind of hit it on the head. We just don't sit up here. We go home. We're involved in the black community. We live in the city. We see what's happening. We can only do what the law allows us to do as council men and women. But also we get involved in community activities. Whether we are on council or not, we will remain active in our community. That's important. And we are upset about the video. We are upset about the name of 1 or 2 officers that always pop up when something like this happens. We do look into it. But we have to understand that the police department does not work for council. We cannot fire them for doing something wrong. We go to the police, we can go to the mayor. They are under the administration. We can put pressure on them, but we cannot make them do anything. And we would hope that the right thing is done. It was said earlier that it is out of our hands once the feds come in. They aren't going to tell us anything. They haven't told us anything. They are still investigating. Then the chief's going to have to do an internal investigation. That may be going on at the same time. And then they'll get together. We will probably find out when you find out. So we are involved in the community. I'm in the same boat as Mrs. Arrington to some degree. I lost a brother in gun violence. Not in Erie, in Newark, New Jersey, in Jersey City. And when I came to Erie, I was a very angry young man. In Erie, we consider that to be slow. And with it being slow, in comparison to the large city, was a benefit for me. I can see both sides. The gangs we have running around our city is nothing new to me. I lived it, and I was part of it. Erie is my home. Newark, New Jersey, I don't even go back for funerals. That's how bad it is. So we're doing okay. We can do better. And I've told a lot of young men when I speak to groups, they look at me and say, well, you got a good job. Well, we didn't call it the hood. We just called it the ghettos. We lived in the ghettos. So things are changing for us, not as fast as we would like it. But what we must do, we will jump on the law enforcement when they do something wrong or abuse their authority. But what about us abusing our own authority with our own folks? We don't march when another black man shoots another black man. We aren't out there marching. Law enforcement do something, we will jump up and we'll attack it. Rightfully so. But we got to do something in our community when that happened. Nobody see nothing. Nobody ever see nothing. 22 people watching, but nobody see anything. But then you come down here and tell us what you want us to do. We're doing the best we can with what we have. If you don't want to tell the police, tell me. I'll tell. Two things on this earth you do, Mr. President. Two things that all of us will do. And you can't be afraid of it. You will live, you will die. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Witherspoon. Just a few things to report. I just wanted to thank the Latino leadership community of Erie for hosting, reinstituting and hosting the Hispanic Festival at the beginning of the month. It was held in Perry Square in the renovated park, and it was a huge success. They had me in the dunk tank against my better judgment. I helped them out. And I don't know where this one girl came from, but boy, I think the Pirates should pick her up because she got 3 balls and she hit me all 3 times, dunked me 3 times in a row. And she was only like 8 years old, so she got my hair wet, definitely. And but she was good, so we had a good time at that. And then this weekend was the Italian festival, and it was always a good time at St. Paul's Italian Festival. Many people in attendance, and like Mrs. Arrington said, it's these community events like this that bring people together, and you see the best in Erie. I know a lot of times, you know, on the news, the saying is, if it bleeds, it leads, and so you hear the bad news first. But all across Erie, there's good things going on. And just another example of that, Councilman Jones invited me to the Global Empowerment and Fellowship of Christian Churches. They had a panel of elected officials and church leaders, and it was no holds barred. Any question was allowed to be asked. It was at East High School, and Councilman Jones and I, we took the questions, and it was a day long or a weekend. Was it the whole weekend? It was the whole weekend, and it was just a great event, church led, but socially conscious and promoting unity in the community and really bringing people together, and it was a good thing for our city. The Blighted Property Review Committee, we did meet on that study session. One of the things that learned, and I think a couple people on council alluded to it, is we have a lot of houses in the city that when you look at them, you would say, oh, this is a blighted house. But under Pennsylvania law, you cannot declare a house blighted if somebody is living in it. And so while we might have dilapidated houses, they legally can't be considered blighted as long as they are inhabited. So that's an issue that we're going to have to address with our state legislators moving forward, because a lot of the houses that we would consider, unfit to live in, people are living in them. And one of the people on the Blighted Property Review Committee said, if you're an immigrant coming from a refugee camp where you had no shelter, clothing, very little water, and then all of a sudden you have 4 walls and a roof over your head, even though we would consider it as Americans blighted, to them that's luxury. And so it's all in perspective. So we have to address the issues, and at the same time, we don't want to put anyone out on the street. So you got to handle these issues with sensitivity, but also with the full force of the law. And like Councilman Brennan said, we will be meeting again. This is ongoing. This isn't just a one and done type situation. And finally, I just wanted to remind everybody that, I have 2 things. Erie Gives, I want to thank the community. $3.1 million raised right here in our hometown, and it stays right here in our hometown. The generosity of the people of Erie is significant, and I want to thank you for that. That was a record-breaking year, $3.1 million. Thank you. And finally, just be careful. Before we come back for our next meeting, the kids will be going back to school. So please be careful in those school zones. Please be careful when you're driving to work. I know for the summer, you didn't have to worry so much about the kids being up that early. They will be out and walking to and from school. So please follow the school zones and watch so that nobody gets in any accidents. And with that, we'll turn it over. City Controller.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to add to what Councilman Kwiatkowski said about our funds. I know they faced a difficult quarter, but as of today, when I checked them, they've rebounded very well with the market improving, so that's a positive sign. And I do have copies of the reports if anybody would like to see them. They'll be in my office, and our next meeting will be in November. So,
thank you. Administration, Ms. Beck.
Good evening. I will keep it as brief as possible. Our West Bayfront, the group from Gannon University, Gannon Gaines, met last week on August 9th. They meet at a different community center throughout their neighborhood, and last week they actually approved their plan. So they're moving forward with improvements to the west side of Erie, much like the east side has the best Bayfront East Side Task Force group. Erie Together also had a meeting, the SWORD team meeting, met on August 10th. Erie Together is the program, the group through the United Way, the Erie Community Foundation that works to end poverty in our community. So they have 4 different groups that meet on a regular basis. They work with Career Street, they work with the school district, they work with convicted felons re-entering the community. So they do a lot of good work, and we'll be hearing more from Erie Together soon. Berry Plastics Group in Little Italy had a groundbreaking last week, a $4 million expansion, I believe. 15 to 20 jobs will be coming to the inner city factory in the next couple of years. So these are good family-sustaining wages. $40,000, $50,000 is the average salary that these folks are making. So good news for our friends in Little Italy. And lastly, tomorrow kicks off Celebrate Erie. Taste of Erie kicks off in West Perry Square at 5 p.m. We have 6 local restaurants, so come down, enjoy some food, get out, meet your neighbors, as council folks have said. Come down, listen to some music, dance in the streets. We have music on the main stage. We couldn't do any of it without our sponsors, so we certainly thank Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, St. Vincent Hospital, UPMC Health Plan, UPMC Hammett. The list goes on and on, but the Sunflower Club, Giant Eagle, again, a huge list of sponsors that I won't sit here and name. Kid Zone, 2 blocks worth of free kids activities that will be in full force from Friday through Sunday. fireworks Sunday evening down on the Bayfront, so recommend that you're out there about 9:30 to get a good view, and we hope that Mother Nature cooperates. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. With that, this meeting is adjourned.
City Council adjourns at 8:53. Mr. Mursky, Mrs. Arrington, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Jones, Mr. Potowski, Mr. Winarski, Mr. Witherspoon.